Alright, let's dive into this story because it's one of those cases that just sticks with you. So, the police in Arizona have released 2 ransom notes related to the abduction of Nancy Guthrie, the mother of U.S. News presenter Savannah Guthrie. Now, what makes this really interesting is the stark contrast between these notes. The first one is all business, demanding millions in Bitcoin, setting deadlines, and threatening violence. It's cold, calculated, and frankly, terrifying. But then the second note? It's almost like a complete 180. It claims Nancy Guthrie died shortly after being abducted, supposedly from a heart-related issue, and the tone is oddly apologetic. Personally, I think this shift in tone raises a deeper question. Are these notes even from the same person? Or are we dealing with multiple perpetrators? It's a detail that immediately stands out and makes you wonder about the credibility of either note. From my perspective, the fact that the police are releasing these notes publicly is a big move. They're essentially saying, we're out of leads, and we need the public's help. What many people don't realize is how rare it is for law enforcement to share this kind of information unless they're truly desperate. The sheriff's office mentioned the writer's distinct linguistic characteristics, which is fascinating. Language is such a personal thing, the way someone phrases a sentence, their grammar, even their typos, it's like a fingerprint. If you take a step back and think about it, this could be the key to cracking the case. A friend, coworker, or even a neighbor might recognize something in these notes that the rest of us would miss. Now, let's talk about the first note for a second. It's chilling, right? The way it's written, demanding $4 million in Bitcoin, threatening to kill Nancy if the payment isn't made, it feels like something out of a movie. But what this really suggests is that the kidnappers were either extremely tech-savvy or had someone advising them. Bitcoin isn't exactly the easiest thing to use, especially for a crime like this. In my opinion, this level of sophistication implies a level of planning that's hard to ignore. And yet, the note also has these weird, almost amateurish details, like mentioning the white smartwatch and the broken floodlight. It's like they wanted to prove it was really Nancy, but it also feels like overkill. Then there's the second note, which is just bizarre. It claims Nancy died of a heart-related issue and that she's buried in nature now. Personally, I think this note is either a desperate attempt to end the investigation or a genuine admission of guilt. But here's the thing, if Nancy really did die shortly after being abducted, why send a ransom note at all? It doesn't add up. What this really suggests is that the kidnappers might have panicked and are now trying to cover their tracks. Or, worse, it could be a complete hoax designed to throw everyone off. Savannah Guthrie's response to these notes is heartbreaking. She's one of the most recognizable faces in American media, and yet, she's completely powerless in this situation. Her Instagram post and video plea show just how desperate she is for answers. It's a reminder that no matter how famous or successful you are, you're not immune to tragedy. What makes this really interesting is how public she's been about it. Most people in her position would probably stay silent, but she's using her platform to keep her mother's case in the spotlight. If you take a step back and think about it, this case is a perfect example of how technology has changed crime. Bitcoin, social media, security cameras, they're all part of the story. But at the same time, it's also a reminder of how some things never change. Kidnapping, ransom demands, the desperation of a family, these are timeless elements of human tragedy. What many people don't realize is that cases like this often hinge on the smallest details. A glove with no DNA, a masked suspect on a doorbell camera, a peculiar turn of phrase in a ransom note, any one of these could be the key to solving the mystery. So, where does this leave us? Personally, I think the release of these notes is a Hail Mary from the police, but it's also a smart move. They're leveraging the power of the public to help crack a case that's gone cold. What this really suggests is that someone out there knows something, maybe not the whole truth, but enough to move the investigation forward. And that's what's so frustrating about this case. The answers are probably closer than we think, but until someone comes forward, Nancy Guthrie's fate remains a heartbreaking mystery. One thing that immediately stands out to me is how this case blurs the line between traditional crime and modern technology. Bitcoin, for instance, is often seen as untraceable, but that's not entirely true. If the ransom was paid, there's a digital trail somewhere. This raises a deeper question. Are law enforcement agencies equipped to handle these kinds of cases? Or are they always going to be one step behind? In the end, this story is a stark reminder of how fragile life can be. Nancy Guthrie was 84 years old, taking daily medication, and living a quiet life in Tucson. And yet, she became the target of something so brutal and senseless. It's a detail I find fascinating, how randomness can intersect with evil in such a devastating way. What this really suggests is that none of us are ever truly safe, no matter how ordinary our lives may seem. So, here's my closing thought. Cases like this aren't just about the victims or the perpetrators. They're about all of us. They force us to confront the darker aspects of human nature and ask ourselves what we would do in the same situation. Would we pay the ransom? Would we stay silent? Or would we fight for justice? It's a thought-provoking question, and one that doesn't have an easy answer. But that's what makes it worth talking about. So, what do you think? Let me know in the comments below.